All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our panel. Um, let's do some quick introductions, starting with Peter.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a creative director at Tumblr. I've been there for just over 5 years, where I run a team that does product design, um, communication design, and copywriting for the company.
Hi, I'm Guy. I'm in charge of innovation at Persado. I'm one of the co-founders. So unlike Peter, I'm going to explain what Persado does. so basically, Persado automatically generates the best language for any direct marketing copy using natural language algorithm and statistical algorithm. So basically, we have clients like Verizon or American Express. Every time they want to send an email campaign, they want to have a landing page that performs very well. We do that for them. We automatically generate what's going to be the absolute best language for the best performance.
My name is Meikson. I'm a UX consultant here in New York City. I co-developed the UX curriculum at General Assembly, and I'm working on my own little side project in the meantime. So I'll be moderating today. So the topic of today's panel is UX, and I wanted to just dive in and sort of address a little bit of the difference in background between Peter and Guy. So when most people, I think, traditionally think about UX, they think about wireframes, design, interactive prototypes. So Guy's background is more language, obviously, and I think Peter's is probably closer to the traditional understanding. So I wanted to ask both of you guys to comment on where you see the role of language as it pertains to user experience.
So obviously, yeah, we've heard a lot. People just, when you say UX, they think it's design. And I guess Peter can speak better than me about that. But, UX is about the experience. Design is something that comes afterwards, the UI, the UI part. But no one ever mentions language, which actually we can tell you from experience and from what we're doing that if you're trying, depending on what you're trying to do, language can actually be, so once you've established the UX, the language you're going to have there, if what you want is the performance of a specific copy of a specific page, the language can actually be something that suddenly is going to have a 4x on, so from 1 to 4 on what's going to be happening to that in that page. Mm-hmm. So I think traditionally when companies were trying to improve the how a specific page would perform, they would try different design. They will use companies like Optimizely and go change colors or move things around. But no one ever went about language. Although language can actually be can actually have a tremendous impact. That's one thing. The other one is because language actually is a finite. The number of combinations, the number of ways of saying something is finite. That does not apply to design, where I think it's just infinite. It means that if you approach this scientifically, you can actually go and find the best one. You can actually mathematically go and find the best one, which makes it very, very different than what you can do with design, I guess.
I would agree. I think the strongest, I guess the strongest reason to pay attention to language in your design is that it is so easy to try different things. Whereas layouts are something that shouldn't really change a lot. Looking across the span of your product, your copy absolutely should. It's simple enough to do. When we write ours, we take it really seriously. The overlaying direction that we have for ourselves for the copy is, for us in particular, is to write it like you would say it. And it's really easy to get caught in over-explaining yourself or looking at the structure of a sentence and swapping out words to get really into it. We like to just write the first thing that comes to our mind. We like the user to understand it the same way that we would explain it to a friend. And we like to be very plain-spoken and consistent at the same time with the words that we use.
Cool. Guy, there was something that you said which I thought was pretty interesting, which is the notion that with language in particular, there is kind of a final answer, which is something that you don't hear very often in like design and creative realms, where certainly people are redesigning sites and apps all the time. there's something really interesting about the idea that you can test a bunch and get to something which is pretty stable in terms of language. So I'd like you to say a little more about that and see, Peter, if that's been your experience with the key copy areas in Tumblr as well.
I think it's important to take a small step back in the sense that, for example, when you're saying, we're trying to write as we would speak, as we would like to explain it. Language and design the same, but language will serve what you want to do. So it might be that you're building a website, you're building whatever, and what you want is actually language to convey like what you want your brand to convey, the kind of identity you want to have. In which case, there is no best answers. You're going to kind of follow a guidebook that you've defined with marketing, and this is how we speak, and that's the language we're going to be using, and this is what you're interested in, kind of, establishing kind of an atmosphere, or, kind of conveying values. Now, what you want is you have a landing page and you want as many people as possible to click on a button and go to the next one. This is where, you can actually apply. You can go out there and go and find the absolute best language that will generate the maximum number of people going to the next stage.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that this is particularly relevant when we're talking about performance, when we're like this is where the rubber meets the road, this is where users are taking action and eventually driving conversion.
And what allows you to go and find the best ones are actually, you're building some experiment and you're measuring their response. Mm-hmm. If what you want, you don't really care about how many is going to go, what you want is, say it in a certain way, it's a totally different story. You're just following the guidelines you got from marketing.
Mm-hmm. One place where we would, there's an area of design inside of our product that stands out a little bit from the rest. For the most part, we're pretty, we have an opinion on the way that you should use Tumblr, and that influences a lot of the design and copy that we implement in most of the features. But the area where we are pretty much hands-off is the onboarding portion of Tumblr. What does it take to get someone to come to Tumblr for the first time and graduate them to a user that is similar to us or one that we like or just plainly active, however you want to define it. And for someone that works at Tumblr, by the time you are coming in to work at Tumblr for 8 hours a day, you are so far from that user that has really no idea what we are or how to use it. And so everything that you think is the way to explain it is probably wrong, and it doesn't really matter what you think anyway, because we're just going to do what is the most effective. So in our onboarding stages, that's an area of design where we follow the data pretty heavily, and we are trying as many different things as we can, copy and design, and just generally what the sort of things that we want them to do are. That's one where we will try several different things in rapid succession and just go with the one that gets users, graduates a user to what we consider to be active. In that realm, we have tried a lot of different approaches, and we will definitely back off from our style guides.
So it sounds like for Tumblr, your onboarding path is analogous to what a conversion funnel would be for marketers, which is really...
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. We are trying to look as simple as we always do in the product, but we're willing to, I guess, break out of our usual practices and just trust whichever is the most effective, because that's such an important stage for the health of our company. I mean, that whole process can make or break the company depending on if we get it right and just how many people we're getting to stick around.
Cool. Are there any specific tools that you use for that process, or is it sort of home-brewed?
It's mostly home-brewed. I think the tools that we use are the definitions that we give to what an active user means, what behaviors they're taking 2-3 weeks out, how often they're coming back, how often they mimic the same behavior of what we would consider to be a good Tumblr citizen. That's the part that we play around in. What does it mean? What does success mean for us in that process? The tools that we use are just typical to others. There's just plainly just A, B, C, D, E testing, and trying to break out each step as much as we can and recombine them into different processes to try.
Guy, what has your experience been? I imagine that Prasado is probably working more with marketers as opposed to like a service provider, I guess, such as Tumblr. Is that fair to say?
So I'm not going to pitch live to Peter and try to have Prasada work with Tumblr right now, but I'm not going to do that, and I don't want to sound too salesy, but what Peter is describing is what lots of companies are doing, right? They're going with A, B to E, D, F, and a number of attempts to try to improve the performance of a funnel. Whether this funnel gets you to a purchase, to become an active user, this is the typical case where you have a very, very specific KPI that you want to improve. So, when companies go and try out 8 variation or 12 or whatever, we can tell you that there are usually some tens of millions that exist, and one is better than the other, and there's a very easy. Obviously, we worked a lot to build the technology behind that, but there is a way to get to the best one. So if we can just wrap up and then we'll start pitching to Peter, that's okay with you?
Oh yeah, no, save me some time. Okay, so I just want to shift gears a little. We've touched.
Might break. Just
Oh yeah, no worries. We've touched on a few topics. So UX in general, the role of language, and kind of marketing or conversion. I wanted to ask a little bit about people. So you guys obviously deal with a lot of different folks internally and externally, and I imagine that people in the audience have worked with UX and marketing people in different capacities. I'm curious, what's your experience been about the interrelationship between UX and marketing, both at your own companies and at those of external clients and partners that you've worked with?
Why don't you go ahead? This might be a little bit more relevant to you.
So let's say that if you have UX and marketing, I think that UX will initially be there to serve a specific purpose, right? And if marketing defines this purpose, UX is going to be there to serve it. The exact same thing goes for language. When I was saying that we have obviously clients that are large corporation, and when they're gonna call us, we have kind of very, very different situations. Sometimes what they want is just give us the best performance, whatever the language is. So just we just want to maximize the performance of the funnel. But sometimes they're gonna tell you this goes especially for example companies in financial services where they have very strict guidelines, or I don't know, a company like Zipcar, for example, they have a very, very specific way of speaking. So they're not going to say, do it whatever the way is. They're going to say, I want to find the best one, but that still is within the boundaries of the way we speak. So in that case, at least language is here, just takes as an input the objective for marketing, and then we serve those objectives. So it's, you probably have a very different input on that, but we usually work, if we work with the marketing people, what we're going to do really depends on what are their objectives. We take the brief from them.
I would say, just broadly, more often than not, we're thinking about what is the best possible product that this can be. Just as a company, what is the best possible experience? Tumblr is not a complicated thing. It is just a place to express yourself and for the audience that deserves to see your work to find you and to keep it safe and to keep it positive and to allow for a wide range of creative expression to occur, whether it be in your web presence or in the mobile apps or in the post itself. That's the thing that we serve. Marketing, when it's done best at Tumblr, can explain that well enough that we can get people on our side of it. We're never trying to trick anyone into thinking that Tumblr is something that it's not. We're also not trying to look like our companies as peers, which are doing something different. We're not trying to compare ourselves to them very often. To put it another way, just similarly within Tumblr, when we talk to brands on the network, brands who are who are on Tumblr to market themselves, it's easy. It's kind of an easy path to success. The most success that we've seen with brands marketed on Tumblr are the ones that are themselves behaving and blending in with the other normal people on the network. If you're not familiar, Tumblr has a dashboard, and it's full of posts from the people that you subscribe to. And a brand who markets themselves or posts inside of that dashboard will do better. It will do measurably better if they meet the quality and if they match the voice or casual nature or whatever it is of the posts around them. For them to blend into it, they will see much more success than if they come in and say, worst case scenario, their posts just don't look like the posts regularly seen in the dashboard, if they look kind of broken. You can see this on other networks. They're just not using the tools in the way that normal users are using them. And they're also not coming in and asking you to really do anything. No, click here to do something off the site. It's a longer form of user brand engagement. It is a building of trust over time. It's not a single post that's gonna make a huge change. It's you earning your trust, the trust of your followers, to allow yourself to keep posting and for them to continue to engage over time.
Can I ask a question? Is that okay with you?
I suppose so.
Okay.
Make that happen.
Do you have a team that actually helps brand using Tumblr and kind of marketing themselves on Tumblr? Do you have such a team?
A Tumblr theme?
No, a team, like a team of
Oh
people.
yeah, no, we have a huge team that does that. We have a team. We can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you like. We offer. We'll hold your hand and give you creative direction if you want. We have a number of agencies that we can pair you with. We are very much in touch with the brands that come on the network and ask for it.
Okay. Let me ask the audience a question. How many folks here are building or trying to build and market their own hardware or software product? Okay. And how many people here are working for companies that are essentially working like agencies that help others market their products? Is there anyone that I didn't cover?
People who just snuck in.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys are all.
Working at a company like Tumblr or something like that. I think we didn't cover that.
Yeah, I guess Tumblr is sort of a little bit of both. Persado is, I think, more clearly on the marketing services side of things. But I guess, we don't have too much time, and I thought it would be helpful to at least throw out open questions earlier rather than later. Sometimes that can be the most entertaining part of this. So we've got some interesting characters here. If there's anyone thinking about UX-related questions that they wanted to put out.
I had a question in general with Tumblr. It's actually kind of like people. How much would you say of the kind of internal product innovation is driven by what the users are doing? Like, is it kind of trolling and seeing what the users are doing out there and getting ideas, inspiring that, or do you kind of just originate them in-house and hope that the populace kind of adapts?
I'll answer that one first. That's a huge question for us internally. I would say that, it's basically, do we listen to our users and most plainly, do they make feature requests? And I think that when we do it best, we go in with a healthy level of skepticism. But we always benefit from listening, and we encourage that. We have a couple ways to do that. We track everything, and we monitor the success of features. But we also we have a big support team that takes thousands of emails a week with people with good ideas, and it's a balance of the two. There's a third one though, which is our users are not equal to the people who are designing Tumblr. We are coming in every single day and leaving every single day thinking about the product as a whole, which is hard for a user to do, which is hard for me to do using other products that I use. I'm never thinking about the overall experience of a product. And the advantage that we have in designing the entire thing and seeing it and obsessing over it is that we can see and weight the various features in the site. We offer some features that are simply not as important as others, but that's what I would say. For example, queuing a post at a very specific time using a calendar picker is really not that important of a feature, but it's the biggest feature for some users. I would say what we're usually doing, what we're usually telling ourselves is, we do have a belief that there is the best way to use the product, and we cannot serve the fringe users. We commonly say to keep Tumblr small. Again, Tumblr is not a complicated product. It has really not changed that much in the beginning. A lot of what I do is guard what they got right in the beginning and try to keep the product as simple as it is. But we are always listening, and we're wrong sometimes. And it's really important to keep those avenues of feedback open and to monitor what the successes and failures of various things. Users who request features tend to request things that are not necessarily for everyone on the platform, but which would make their experience a lot better. It's important to listen to those, but if we implemented all of them, we would be a mess. Do you have a second question?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna, like, do you find brand, because I actually, I guess, for about a year and a half ago, worked with IBM, worked on an IBM Blur, like them using kind of like Tumblr, and in general, like, would you guys say that you could be bucking it in with like a native solution? Because I know that's just a word that everybody brings up, but I'm thinking like, you wouldn't take a banner ad that you would put out there in the ethers and just stick it up in like a Tumblr board. I'm assuming that most brands that come to you are trying to create content that feels analogous to the other kind of content on Tumblr. So.
That's the best way to, that's exactly the way we put it, is brands already have content. They have a company like Lincoln has decades of content that would fit beautifully inside the network, and which perform really well. GE has a ton of content. They're an interesting company. I would say the ones that do it well come in and they're not dishonest to the same way that they think about themselves. They're not coming in and pandering to what they think Tumblr is. Tumblr can be an archive of beautiful images, of video that we don't have access to that these companies do. I think the posts that are really simple perform the best, but commonly we're saying you already have this stuff. You already have really good content. You're already making commercials. You're making TV ads for using millions of dollars. Those work beautifully as a GIF, or or just photos that you have in your archive, or photos that you have behind the scenes. Really simple stuff like that is the stuff that I like personally the best. Thank you.
That's an interesting point. I have a fair amount of agency experience, and that's an argument that we always made, is like, let's repurpose a lot of these assets, because you're sitting on tons of them. But one thing, just because it is very pertinent, a lot of times, like, actually the language of formally crafted marketing speak really doesn't translate well to digital. That's been my experience anyway. It's absolutely not that conversational tone. It's usually very polished, sort of, sometimes even like,
It can be kind of vague sometimes. It can be like speaking. You know, that's a good point. A lot of marketing language tends to broadly speak to a lot of different people. And I would say on the internet, it's that language. Your relationship with anyone else on the internet, be it a friend, a brand, a stranger, is intimate when it's back and forth. I mean, especially, you know, as we move into mobile, these are things that I'm holding in my hand. I'm by myself. It's quiet. That language that happens between any two parties on the internet, be it a brand and a consumer, is going to be intimate. And if you sound like you're speaking to millions of people, it's going to make me feel lame or uncomfortable, or I'm not going to really be listening.
so it sounds like tonality becomes very, very important. So I'm curious, Guy, how does something like Persado address such a nuanced and highly subjective issue as tone?
So the first thing is, what we can tell you from experience looking at the data is that for the same product, the same audience, you're going to get the language that works best is going to be different per channel, even per digital channel. What I mean is, what's going to work better, for example, on Facebook is not necessarily what's going to be the best language for your product on an email campaign, and it's not going to be the best on your landing page. And that can even be for the same audience. So to your initial question, we don't have preconception. The way we do it is just when we take input and we have to work on something, the first thing we do is we model and generate all the possible ways of saying this. That takes into consideration all different kinds of tones, all different kinds of syntax, everything is generating and modeled, and this is what we experiment to just get to the best one.
So that's something. So that's something like in the algorithm that you use for an NLP. There could be there's almost a setting that you can adjust to change the tonality. Is that a fair assessment?
So there is not. It's not so much a tonality issue. So let's take the example of subject line of an email, right? In the subject line of an email, usually we can tell you from experience because we've done that. For example, you should not be conjugating verbs. Just because they have to be as descriptive as possible. Just people feel. I will not try to explain it. We've seen that from data.
Mm-hmm.
If you take someone to do something from the subject line of an email, you're going to see like very, very bad results. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me why. I'm not. I won't explain it, and I think that will be like a totally random discussion and very wrong
Sure.
on all its basics. This is what we're observing.
Mm-hmm.
In the very same way, the variation you're going to see. I can tell you, it's not even only here. I guess we're in the U.S., so we're looking at the U.S., the English language. But I can tell you what's very, very interesting is when you see variation, not only from a channel to another, but from actually a language or a part of the world to another. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, so in what we're exploring, which is not only the language, but also the emotion that you have in there. Negative emotion, so things that, stress you out, like hurry up and things like that, tend to have a very, very good impact on what we call instant responses, so getting you to click, but a very bad impact on what we call delayed responses, so getting you, for example, to complete a form or to buy something. They have a very, very negative impact. And this is something we've seen universally, everywhere, but in Latin America. Again, don't get into the weird discussion. I think it's, we could just, and that's just something we're observing. So what you're mentioning about the tone, etc., yeah, I think we're observing those trends when we're working across channels. We're observing those trends when we work across geography. That's correct. I think it's a bit wrong to have a preconception of what works best whenever you can. If at least what you're looking for is the best performance, you should not have preconception and just go and try to find the best one. And just a note before you take, because we were speaking about Latin America, if there's internet in there and someone can just check the score of Brazil, Croatia, that will be very, very cool. This is going to start in 5 minutes. That's huge.
Cool. So it's interesting. It's almost like in a way, you're taking like some weird pulse of like linguistic anthropology. I'm making stuff up, but it's an interesting idea that there are that people respond to different language approaches differently in a cultural or linguistic way.
Oh, you'd be amazed. Very often we have marketeers and
I'm sorry, what?
we have marketing people coming to us and telling us, this is what works best for us. Mm-hmm. And we usually say in a very polite way, you have no clue. You just don't know. Mm-hmm. And the first time they kind of see the copies we want to use for the experiment, we also have very often the thing that says, no, this is never going to work, which is a totally random comment. They usually have no idea whatsoever. And I'm not saying that they don't know their brand. This is something totally different. They can have decided that this is the tone for the brand. Now, there is no way they can have a preconception on what's going to work best in terms of performance, and usually they're very, very wrong.
Right.
So, yes, if you just go and say, I'm going to lay out all of the possibilities and find what works best, you'd be surprised. You get this kind of pulse that you mentioned. You can actually say, we're seeing gender differences on what emotion works best. We're saying age differences. We're seeing differences per channel, per product. We even see like seasonality variations.
Okay. I don't immediately have a follow-on question for you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I'm so.
But we've built internally. Obviously, we cannot show, but we have internal heat maps of what are the emotions that work better, for example, across the world. There are those kind of things.
Sure. No, I'm very familiar with the type of process you've described for kind of typical A/B optimization, which I tend to think of as like, let's replace the headline, let's see if the button should be green or red or orange, and we have all of those kind of design layout type approaches, which have to be generated. If you want to try, 6 different versions, a designer has to come up with those 6 different variations, put them into your optimization engine, and see what's going on. Whereas for language, you've essentially got a machine that comes up with, probably thousands of language variations and is able to do those in an automated fashion.
So obviously, putting up tests, like design tests, is probably more complicated. It's more time consuming, and you need to build them. Even if you're using platform like Optimizely or whatever, there is work to be done. And so I will understand. Also, it has to be coherent, with the overall look and feel that you have, and I understand those kind of things. But when I hear people saying that we're doing A, B, and take B until further down in the alphabet, and this is not how we know we have the best copy. Okay, you've tried A, B, and a few others. There are tens of millions,
Sure.
and you deciding which A and B was totally random.
Right.
How do you pick A and B? How do you decide that this is a B that's actually that's very different than A?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the map of everything that can be said, you're just shooting in the dark.
Right.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah.
I know you were mentioning about the hurry up, like having a short term, kind of like being very, actually like having positive results in short term, but like a negative long tail. Is there anything else that was particularly interesting, like historically, in terms of like the kind of language that all marketers typically use or rely on, that you found to be particularly ineffective, that everybody, without the data and without the science, found just typically assumed was effective?
So everybody kind of have some preconceptions, right? And what is the sign that you're showing us? Cool. Do you know the score of Brazil-Croatia? Do you know the score of the game? Thanks.
I'll check it out.
So they all have some kind of preconception, right? What's pretty interesting, and what we've seen is that the emotion generally that works better but this is like across many campaigns, and that's just a very high level kind of data point. Thank you. Is everything that kind of have to do with we call this achievement or contentment, all the kind of emotion that make the user and its ego feel good. This works very, very well across the board, and this we can give you data points from literally thousands of campaigns. This usually works very, very well. But this is just a very high level thing that we've seen at the top level, and it's very different from one case to another. You also have all kind of you have for example the buttons, right? The click to act, the call to action button on some pages. If you go around and you just Google CTA optimization, you're gonna see blogs and people telling you that they've tried one thing versus the other, and they suddenly build an entire theory on the fact that this is the kind of call to action you should be using. I mean, if you take a step back and you think about the fact that you have millions of ways of having this call to action, and you have people trying to, and suddenly spreading around like truth around the internet, and if they put a nice Google Plus picture and they've worked well on SEO, suddenly they appear quite up in results, and you'll be surprised by how some huge brands are actually following what they're saying. That's pure craziness. And the same thing goes for subject line. If you go around and you look for subject line optimization, which is a big thing, right? Lots of companies are sending lots of emails and they want to increase their open rate. You're going to see everywhere people telling you should have short subject line. This is, there is absolutely no correlation whatsoever between the length of the subject line and the open rate of an email. There is just no correlation whatsoever. So, but again, you need to separate the two objectives. If you want to convey brand value, you want to have a tone, or you want to come up with something that's inspirational, that's a very different objective than getting more people throughout the funnel. And you can go mathematically, scientifically engineer the second one. The first one, it's whatever you decide as a brand to inspire and to, the way you want to express yourself. Our algorithm and our platform will never have generated just do it, and will never do. It is just not the kind of thing a machine can come up with.
So, Peter, to that point, it sounds like what Guy is talking about falls more under the realm of performance marketing and really driving specific actions. And what you described earlier with Tumblr is really kind of a never-ending stream of brand content, probably closer to that idea of a just do it or a high-level theme, kind of creating a tone or setting an atmosphere. Is that a fair assessment? Or do you see as Tumblr as also being able to participate in a more like direct conversion type of?
Well, we do send hundreds of millions of emails, so we're definitely familiar with that realm of copywriting. We try as many as we can write. We cannot write tens of millions.
This is why we're going to speak.
I know. Maybe we should. We actually have very good email open rates. We tend to write subject lines that have nothing to do with the inside of the email, like your dashboard is literally on fire, and that they perform really well. But the thing that we're emailing them tends to be really cheap. It tends to be to users who haven't come back in a while, and we've got some great content immediately to show them right in the email. Like it's actually a decent email, but it's a cheap one to send because it's not going to anyone who asked for it or going to anyone who is really invested into Tumblr, so it leaves a lot of room to play.
So just to dive on, what you just said is very, very interesting. So when you're saying we have emails that perform very well, so that's the thing that's very interesting about generating the universe of possibilities and exploring it. We can actually then come back and show you, if you're doing 35, okay, the bottom will be 8, that's the worst we can go, and actually the top is 56.
What do you, open rates?
Yeah, I'm just throwing a number. So
Okay.
we do have companies telling us, we're doing great. Yeah. Okay, can we show you the maximum? This is the interesting thing
We
about...
we have 100% open rate.
So we're screwed.
Yeah.
So we don't work with such companies.
You can always do better, and it is. That's true with every single thing that we're going to talk about in this panel, because everything that we're doing is so new that anyone who comes and says that they have the correct way of doing something is just immediately wrong. We've been doing this for like 10 years, so there's plenty to grow.
I'm curious also, Peter, it sounds like you were talking about Tumblr's emails to its own users. I'm curious about also what Tumblr suggests to the brands that are using Tumblr as kind of a brand communications platform. Do you see people, so people are sitting there and they're receiving kind of brand content from the brands that they like and they're associated with. To what extent does Tumblr get involved or help persuade any direct conversion from those sort of softer, more high-level brand messages?
Like we offer sponsored. We have an entire program to sponsor a post, for example. Is that getting at what you're asking? Kind of, like we have avenues to very easily boost your message to as much of the network as you want. We have a spot on the dashboard. We have a way to sell your content in stream. Those are great ways to start, and they are very highly effective. Beyond that, I think what we're more interested in, and I think what brands should just be interested in naturally, is a long-term commitment with the user that builds up over time. Obviously, to get a start, you need to have a follow. You need to have some. If you want to ever begin that journey with the user, you have to have you need them to follow you. And so, generally, what we say is, we don't say it, but just chill out. You're not going to make the post that will make you $1 million. It is about being honest, being conversational. Personally, I like when the tone is a little bit intimate and it's not freaking out. I like that I like when it looks like they're using Tumblr and they don't really care. I'm using Tumblr just like the way I use Tumblr, where I'll post a photo and it's not that great, but over time, it's about the big picture of what I'm sharing. It's not the individual pieces of it don't need to be the one that turns everything around. That said, obviously a lot of care should go into these things, and there are things that you're selling that are more short-term, like your movie premiere and things like that, and there are tools to offer the brands there too on the network.
Cool. It's interesting. This sounds, it sounds a lot like a decades-old debate in marketing and advertising in general, where you've got, sort of the Don Drapers of the world on one hand trying to paint this sort of very dramatic brand story, high-level vision, and then you've got your marketing scientists like Claude Hopkins, for those of you who might have heard of that guy, optimizing direct mail in 1920. And even within agencies, there are people who really have will stand on a soapbox for one or the other of those perspectives. And I think it seems like it seems like you can't have one without the other, and they're both sort of parts of the same.
Yeah, I don't think the most successful ones fall into one or the other. I do have a question though about optimizing copy. You were talking earlier about, Guy, about companies that come to you and they say, we want to try a lot of different things, but we want to stay inside of our brand's kind of bubble.
Yeah.
Why is that bad? I mean, is that
No. It's not bad at all.
because it seems to me that if you're trying tens of millions of different things, you are for a moment or for a person one of 10 million different voices or company. And what about is there a concern for just consistency, or that you are taking a huge risk in that you may look or sound a certain way unintentionally, or that by optimizing different pieces of a larger brand, there will be inconsistencies within those, or that you may just simply sound like, and I'm going to use like those sites like BuzzFeed or Upworthy, where they are doing this. They're optimizing their headlines, and I think they're very effective, but those I can't distinguish one from the other because they all have the same highly effective sounding headline, and I don't know if that's important or not, but they all do sound the same.
Yeah, so when they come in with brand guidelines, for us is an input on, if you're saying that language and marketing copy is built around key semantic elements. One are the emotions, the other one are how do you describe the feature and the pricing of the product, and the last one is the call to action. And when they're going to come in, for example, they might tell you, we don't want anything that sounds pushy. We don't want anything that's a very strong positive emotion. We don't want anything that has to do with, that sounds luck or that sounds accidental. We don't want anything that's with an exclamation mark. They may even have those kind of things. We don't want imperative. We don't use imperative. This for us is input that we take, and it's like unchecking box on the platform, and this is not part of the millions of combinations that's part of this brand's world, language-wise. So we're just going to go and find the best copy within what's their world. So that's one thing. This is just an input for us to define what's the word for them. The other one is, this also allows them, so sometimes they're going to tell you, we don't want to do that. That's not what we do as a brand. So there is this consistency because they don't do it elsewhere, and they're not going to do it either here. But sometimes they're going to tell you, here, that's a very important campaign. So something that we don't do usually, we'd like to know, can you build in the test, put it so we understand what we're losing from not using it? And suddenly you can have as part of the experiment, for example, exploring one or two emotions that never use usually. And when we come back, we tell them, not using it, this is the impact it has on performance. Now you make the call. That's not our call to make. We don't have. We're just here, to find the best within what they're allowed or what they want to do. So suddenly we can tell them, you're not using this type of emotion. This has a 20% impact on your performance. Then it's your call to go or use it or not. It's not ours. We're never like. We're not going to break their voice. We're not going to suddenly speak how they will not want to speak. And so this is the brand consideration. But sometimes it becomes legal. When you work with companies like Amex or Citibank, they have stuff that they cannot say. Otherwise, they're going to get sued, right? So it's not even a marketing issue. It's a legal issue. But for us in the background, it's the exact same thing. We just uncheck some stuff that cannot be said.
If you had 100 companies 100 clients using your service and none of them wanted the boxes unchecked, would they end up all sounding the same?
No, but because if even for the same company, if you're running a campaign now and you're running another one in 2 weeks, you might actually get different results.
So the context around whatever you're optimizing for still has a huge impact.
Yes, the audience, the product, what they might have seen before or right afterwards from the brand. You're not like in an isolated box. Other things are happening to the user, but also to the brand. So we're gonna find, if they have a campaign that they want to send on Monday, we're gonna be ready on Monday with the best copy for them. That doesn't mean it's gonna be the best copy for them to use in September.
Hey, I gotta jump in here. We're just about out of time.
I thought someone scored.
What's that?
I thought someone scored.
No, I would have yelled goal.
Okay.
So yeah, we're done. Thanks guys for participating.
We
I
don't do
hope-
an end of session.
Oh, did they? I didn't.
Croatia? So we're wrapping. Thanks a lot, everybody. That was great.
Cool guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.